You're not broken. You're not weak. And no, brother, you're not crazy. But she made you feel like you were, like every gut instinct you had was paranoia, like your calm was coldness, like your clarity was control. She flipped the script over and over until you were the one apologizing for simply wanting peace. Let me guess. You try to talk things out, but somehow you're always the one explaining yourself. You pull back to protect your sanity, and suddenly she's sweet again. You ask for truth. She gives you emotion. You draw a boundary. She calls it rejection. It's like walking through fog, isn't it? One day, you're her king. The next, you're her enemy. And deep down, something doesn't add up. But you stay. Because you hope. Because you love. Because you think maybe it's you. My friend, what if it's not you at all? What if you've been caught in a game you were never meant to win? A silent, emotional game where the rules change every time you start to figure them out. Where the goal was never love, but control. In this video, we're going to walk straight into that fog. No yelling, no blaming, no fake alpha energy, just truth. Cold, clear, masculine truth. You'll see every move for what it is. You'll feel the weight lift, not because you fought harder, but because you finally saw the board. Stay with me until the end, and you'll walk away not just with clarity, but with the kind of unshakable peace that only comes when a man sees the game and chooses not to play. 1. You're always the one explaining yourself. She doesn't ask for clarity, she demands a confession. And somehow, brother, you always give it. You find yourself rewording the same sentence 5 different ways, trying to sound softer, gentler, more understanding. Not because you did anything wrong, but because she felt something wrong. You could say something as simple as, "I need some space to think," and suddenly you're cold, you're distant. You don't care about her needs, so you explain. You explain your tone, your timing, your mood, your intentions. And the longer you talk, the less you feel understood. You start second-guessing yourself. Not just what you said, but who you are. Because every sentence you speak feels like a defense, and every silence she gives feels like punishment. That's not communication, my friend. That's conditioning. What's really happening here is the slow erosion of your inner authority. You're being trained to distrust your own clarity, to question your motives, to replace your instinct with guilt. This is emotional inversion. You begin to feel responsible for her reactions, even when your actions were grounded and true. And she avoids accountability by making you the narrator of every problem. If she's upset, you must have failed to explain. If she's distant, you must have said something wrong. If she's hurt, you must not love her right. It's a trap. Because the more you explain, the more she listens for flaws, not truth. And the more you doubt your words, the more she controls your voice. This isn't just about words, brother. It's about your sense of self. Every explanation chips away at it, until you're not leading the relationship anymore. You're defending your presence in it. And here's the brutal truth. Once a man starts narrating himself to be understood, he's already losing himself to be accepted. You're not broken, brother. You're just waking up. And this is where most men fall deeper into the loop. Because just when they try to pull away, she does something that pulls them right back in. You'll see what I mean in the next point. 2. She creates the problem, then becomes the victim. She throws the match and cries about the fire. You've seen it. She says something sharp, maybe a disrespectful jab or a cold silence stretched just long enough to cut. You react, you call it out, and suddenly You're the aggressive one. Now you're the reason she's upset. You're too intense. You always make things worse. You're left standing there confused, trying to trace back where it went wrong, trying to figure out how her trigger became your fault. This isn't just emotional deflection, it's a power reversal. What's really happening here is role flipping, a covert form of manipulation where she controls the narrative by shifting from attacker to victim the moment she feels exposed. It keeps you in a constant state of emotional defense, because now, instead of addressing her actions, you're comforting her reaction. And just like that, the original problem disappears. Her disrespect? Unmentioned. Her contradiction? Forgotten. Her accountability? Evaporated. All that's left is you apologizing. Again, this dynamic doesn't just confuse you, it conditions you. You start filtering your truth through her possible emotions. You hesitate, you soften, you shrink. Not because you lack strength, but because you've been trained to avoid conflict that always leads to blame. And the most dangerous part? You begin to accept her chaos as your responsibility. Her storm becomes your failure to bring calm. But brother, let's be clear, you're not broken. You're just waking up from the emotional spin cycle. Because here's the brutal part no one talks about. The more you try to pull away from this madness, the more she pulls you back in, but not with blame this time, with sweetness. And that shift, that's where the trap tightens. We'll get into that in the next point. 3. When you pull away, she becomes sweet again. She doesn't change, she shifts. The second you stop chasing, the second you go silent, she softens. Suddenly she's kind again. She's texting first. She's asking how you're feeling. She wants to talk things through. And for a moment, you start to believe it meant something. That maybe she heard you. That maybe this time she's real. But you've been here before, haven't you? You pull away to protect your peace, and she throws just enough warmth to reel you back in. It's not love. It's not growth. It's a reset button. This is called intermittent reinforcement, the same psychological loop used to train animals, addicts, and yes, even men. It works by alternating affection and withdrawal until you become emotionally dependent on her next move. You stop trusting the chaos because you're waiting for the next high, the next good moment, the next version of her that feels safe. But here's what you don't see right away. That sweetness isn't built on respect. It's built on control. She's not rewarding your strength. She's reacting to your distance. Because the second she feels you slipping out of the cycle, she presses just hard enough to make you question leaving. And when it works, when you come back thinking things are finally better, she resets. The same silence, the same blame, the same confusion. But this time, it hurts worse. Because now you're not just doubting her, you're doubting yourself, your decision to leave, your ability to trust your instincts, your masculine edge. You're not crazy, brother. You're being trained to second-guess your freedom. And here's the part most men never catch. When you finally try to speak truth into this madness, she doesn't fight fair. She rewrites the rules with emotion. We'll break that down next. 4. Logic fails. Her emotions rewrite reality. You can't argue with a feeling, and that's the trap. You come with facts, with clarity, with calm. You lay it out, point by point, hoping to resolve something like men do, directly. But what you say doesn't matter, not if her emotions decide otherwise. You say, "I didn't mean it that way." She says, "Well, that's how it made me feel." And just like that, the entire argument resets, not based on truth, but on her emotional perception of truth. You walk in thinking it's a conversation. But what you've stepped into is a reality war. And brother, you're the outsider in it. This is what's called emotional override. It's when logic gets replaced by feeling, and reason has no seat at the table. She's not responding to what happened. She's responding to how she feels it happened. And in her version, you're the villain, even if you spoke gently, even if you stayed grounded, even if you were right. You start to notice the shift. No matter how carefully you explain, it's never enough. She cries, and suddenly, you're the aggressor. She gets anxious, and you become unsafe. So what do? You back off. You question your tone. You water yourself down to avoid being misunderstood. But here's what that slowly does to a man. It disconnects him from his own reality, from his voice, his instinct, his truth. You begin to adapt to her emotional weather like it's your job to keep the skies clear. But it's not. That was never your role. You're not broken, brother. You're just trapped in someone else's storm. And here's the cost most men don't see until it's too late. Once you lose trust in your own mind, you'll start abandoning the one thing that could have saved you: your boundaries. We'll talk about that next. 5. Your boundaries are treated like threats. A boundary isn't violence, but to her, it feels like war. You say, "I need space." She hears, "You don't love me." You say, "This behavior's not okay with me." She turns it into, "Why are you trying to control me?" And suddenly, the line you drew to protect your peace becomes proof that you're the problem. This isn't just miscommunication, it's emotional weaponization. She flips your standards into punishments. She takes your clarity and reframes it as cruelty. And what does that do to a man like you? It makes you hesitate. It makes you doubt yourself every time you try to stand tall. Because now you're not just protecting your values, you're defending your right to even have them. So what do? You soften your tone. You over-explain. You water it down just enough to keep the peace, even if that peace costs you yourself. But here's the truth, brother. Boundaries aren't for punishment. They're for protection. They're not about her behavior. They're about your clarity. And when that clarity threatens her control, she'll push back. Not with reason, with emotion, with guilt, with silence, with tears or chaos or even fake surrender. Because in that moment, it's not about understanding, it's about leverage. And slowly, you begin to notice something dark. The more you speak your truth, the more unstable the relationship becomes. So you learn to shrink, to give in, to negotiate your standards just to keep her calm. But here's the cost. You stop recognizing yourself in the mirror, not because you changed, but because you stopped defending the man you were becoming. You're not weak, my friend. You've just been taught to fear your own strength. And this fear, it only deepens. Because in the next phase, she doesn't just resist your clarity, she starts rewarding your confusion. And that's where most men completely lose the game. We'll go there next. 6. She rewards confusion, not clarity. The more unsure you are, the more she leans in. Not when you're grounded, not when you're clear, but when you're second-guessing yourself. That's when she lights up. You felt it. You tell her exactly how you feel, what you want, what you won't tolerate. And suddenly she pulls away, goes cold, calls you too intense, too rigid, too serious. But when you hesitate, when you're unsure, when you say, "I don't know, maybe I overreacted," now she's soft again. Now she's affectionate. Now she's here for you. It's backwards, right? But it's not an accident. This is called reinforced ambiguity. It's when the relationship rewards you emotionally only when you abandon your certainty. Not because she wants truth, but because she wants control over your truth. Clarity is dangerous to someone who thrives in chaos. When you're clear, you can walk away. You can draw lines. You can see through the mask. But when you're confused, you're easier to bend, to lead, to mold into what she needs in the moment. And here's the kicker, brother. It starts to feel like love. The dopamine hit from her checking in, the text at the perfect moment, the apology that sounds real, until you realize it came right after you started pulling back. So now you chase the high. You question your logic just to feel that warmth again. You begin to trade certainty for closeness. And every time you get confused, she comes back like the cure. But she's not the cure. She's the addiction. And this is how men lose their internal compass. Not by being weak, but by being rewarded for drifting. You're not broken, my friend. You're being trained to live without a map. And it gets worse, because in the next phase, the game isn't just confusing, it becomes impossible. Because now, you're playing by rules she never even told you. We'll go there next. 7. You're in a game where only she knows the rules. You're not losing because you're weak. You're losing because the rules keep changing. One day, she wants space. The next, she accuses you of being distant. One day, she praises your calm. The next, she says you're cold and emotionally unavailable. You try to adapt. You try to adjust. You think, if I can just figure out what she needs. But brother, that's the trap. This isn't about meeting her needs. It's about staying confused long enough that you stop trusting your own. What you're caught in is covert game theory, an emotional dynamic where she keeps the power by keeping the rules hidden. There's no scoreboard, no clear goal, no win condition, only reaction, only correction, only you chasing the version of her that felt safe, even if that version only lasted one night. And the game gets deeper. Because every time you think you've figured it out, she flips it. What was right last week is wrong today. What made her feel loved before is now too much. What hurt her yesterday is suddenly not a big deal. So you start living in response, not in presence. You monitor. You anticipate. You walk on eggshells trying to avoid the next unseen line. And this is where the real cost hits. You stop leading. You stop deciding. You stop being you. Because you're not living in truth anymore. You're surviving inside her maze. And the longer you stay, the more you confuse emotional manipulation with intimacy. You're not broken, brother. You're just playing a game that was never designed for you to win. And now comes the final twist most men never see coming. Because this was never about love. It was never about partnership. It was about something far colder and far more calculated. We'll finish it in the next point. 8. She was never looking for a partner. She was looking for control. She didn't want connection. She wanted control that looked like connection. From day one, you thought it was about love, mutual effort, shared growth, a real bond. But now, looking back, every time you stepped into your strength, she pulled away. Every time you tried to lead, she challenged. Every time you brought clarity, she introduced chaos. That's not partnership, brother. That's power imbalance disguised as intimacy. This is the hard truth most men don't want to see. She wasn't drawn to your wholeness. She was drawn to your willingness to give it up. It's called covert domination, not through force, not through control in the obvious sense, but through emotional leverage, through guilt, through subtle reward and unpredictable punishment. She didn't want an equal. She wanted emotional territory, to move the goalposts, to shape you, to keep you dancing. And it's not because she's evil. It's because control feels safer to her than connection. Love demands vulnerability, but control keeps her above consequence. And once she sees that she can bend you, that you'll shrink to keep her, she'll stop respecting you. That's the final twist. She doesn't actually want the man who obeys her feelings. She just needs to know that she could break him. And once you're broken, once your voice, your values, your vision are all bent around her moods, she'll look at you the same way we look at something we've already figured out, with boredom. You're not broken, brother. You were just caught in a system designed to drain your edge. But now you see it. Now the game is exposed. Now the truth is louder than the guilt. And when a man sees the truth without flinching, he doesn't argue, he doesn't beg. He walks, quietly, finally, and free. You're not crazy. You're not broken. You were just trying to love with integrity inside a game that punished you for it. But now, the fog has lifted. You see the pattern. You feel the shift. And most importantly, you trust your mind again. Because a man who sees clearly is a man who can't be controlled. Not by guilt, not by silence, not by someone who twists love into leverage. You didn't lose yourself. You gave pieces away, hoping it would bring peace. But peace was never hers to give. It's yours. And now, brother, you take it back. You walk forward without begging to be understood. You draw the line, not for revenge, but for respect. You speak your truth, not to change her, but to honor you. That's the shift. That's the power. That's the edge no one can take from you again. If this message hit something real in you, brother, drop a comment, hit like, and join us here at Stoic Mindset. We're building men who see clearly and stand strong in it.